One take wine. Back with a couple of more exciting bottles, I think. A couple of pretty interesting ones. I thought we would talk a little bit about the Premier Cru in Gevrey Chambertin of Poissenot. It's the beginning of the Côte de Nuit, you could say. And Poissenot sits right at the top, right at the north of that in the hills. It's a south-facing plot. It's close to Clos Saint-Jacques for people who might be a little bit more familiar. Some of the best, I would say, some of the better Premier Crus of Gevrey Chambertin sort of sit at the top in this Côme de Lavaux, this kind of bowl, I guess, in the hills. The importer, actually, of one of these wines that I'll be testing today explained to me there's a kind of a cooling breeze that comes through the Côme de Lavaux. It sort of whistles down into the valley, right? And it helps to keep the grapes fresh, especially, at night or when there's heat. You want that cooling, refreshing sort of breeze or microclimate of some kind anyway to keep the freshness in at night, keep acidity levels decently high, because otherwise you lose that kind of the freshness and that drive and that, the elegance and the kind of vivaciousness, the liveliness that Pinot, that especially Burgundy, is known for. Or that I at least experience in the finest Burgundies. Also, Gevrey Chambertin, the wines, when I think they're at their very best, they're powerful, are always powerful, but they have an elegance, a supreme light touch to them that is very regal. They have this sort of presence about them and this drive to them. It's not an American football linebacker, kind of hammering down on a quarterback. It's lighter on its feet. It still has the power, but it has a certain grace to it as well. That's what I find in the best Chambertin. Clos de Bez, same way. And now when we're up in the Premier Cru, Clos Saint-Jacques, which a lot of people argue for being a Grand Cru, these sort of lots that are around the Clos Saint-Jacques in that upper part, I think are super interesting. We'll get into those wines in a second. First, I wanted to just review some wines that we tasted at the latest group tasting. I'm not going to go through all the wines, but as you can see, it was a great lineup. And there's one wine in particular, stuck my nose in it, and I went, boom. I thought, sine qua non. It has to be sine qua non. But it's a little pinchy, maybe on the finish, and a little drier. So is it a Côte Rotie, a pork roast I had, I think, and all kinds of other descriptors. But what I remember most is it was like shoving your face into a wall of sound almost. It was that intense, the feeling of it, the kind of the sensation. It was all encompassing. It just took over everything. It was unassailable. There was nothing you could sort of say from the start other than, okay, we're definitely in a big wine from a big producer, no question about it. And then after that, how do we finesse the details? So then big discussions around the table. Everybody had the same obvious sort of initial reaction or a similar one. And when it was unveiled, it was the 2019 La Turque, and the Swedish importer, who is part of the group, had brought it. And it was magnificent. It was just absolutely stunning for such a young La to be so approachable and so generous with its fruit already. And you're talking about Grand Vin already. And it's only going to get better and better and better. It was truly magnificent. So, if any of you have plans for buying the 2019 La Turque, I can, without reservation, recommend go for it. Do not even hesitate. It's a top-notch wine. Just the sheer generosity of that fruit, still within that structure, that big, deep structure of a La. Wow. Okay, wow, let's get on to this tasting. What do we got in the glass? The first wine. Well, we know it's Poissenot because they made a whole big thing about it at the start, right? That's some nice cherry. I like a lovely red cherry nose. Some cinnamon. Very candied kind of fruit. Delicious, deliciously sweet, clean fruit. Almost a mentholated type of finish, which is a little tannic. There's some tannin in there, and sneaky tannin. Maybe not sneaky, it's there. You can tell it's there, but I don't think that they're unrefined tannins. I think they're very elegant tannins. Just maybe the sheer number of them. A bit drying on the finish because of that. Superb wine. Love the medium length to it. I love the fruit. It's so soft and caressing and charming and seductive. And that cooling effect is lovely too. Maybe could use a little bit more drive, but I almost prefer that it's hanging on to a sort of a little bit of a cleaner and loftier type of expression of itself than a burly one, than a Village Gevrey might have. These are so mineral, you know. Gevrey Chambertin is like, it is so mineral, always. Makes you want to eat. I just ate and I still want to eat more. I'm hungry again. It's 2016 Jadot. Jadot is one of the, there aren't that many producers in Poissenot. I'm only dealing with 2 of them today. What can I say about this wine? It's very charming. It was released at Système Blodgett maybe a month ago, or within this month. There's still a few bottles around. It's pricey, but it's not Grand Cru pricey. That's number one. It isn't Grand Cru either, but okay, we have to go looking for great Burgundies at reasonable prices, and this, while being expensive, is worth its money for sure. And it's 2016, which is one of my favorite vintages in Burgundy, even for red. I like this. I like the rounded elegance of the fruit. For me, that's very charming. Second wine, it's a bit darker than the first wine. The first wine is very light. It's darker. It has more cinnamon to it, more licorice to it, more wood to it. More tannin to it. I'll go back to wood to it. Roasted coffee flavors for sure. A lovely black cherry fruit more. Some herbs, very complex. Lovely, 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 lovely. What happens here is you get a big mouthful of this, it has a lot of tannin, and the tannins kind of rush to the back and wait. And as they wait for everything else to catch up, there's a cooling menthol sort of brace that kind of surrounds everything that's coming. So then it starts to mingle with everything and keeps everything cool and light. And then the flavors sort of come and wash over a little bit in waves. And tannin keeps the persistence level up. I've had this wine before. I've probably talked about this wine before. It's starting to go to sleep a little bit, but it's also starting to grow a little bit, to get heavier, to put on a little bit of fat or muscle. This is going to be a great wine in 10 years' time. That's one of those wines that at every point that I've had it, I've loved it. And it's the Humbert Poissenot, but it's 2015. So 2015 is very different than 2016 from a vintage perspective, for sure. That's number one. Number two, Humbert is a very different producer than Jadot. There's something in the wood here. They've used a lot of new wood, I would think, Humbert. Maybe not as sophisticated in its use. I've had the 2016 of this wine. I've also been attracted to that one. I thought it was lighter than the 15 and probably a little bit more elegant, especially early on in life. And the 15 is going to be a monster. It's just going to grow and grow and get bigger and bigger. So it's one of those wines, right? For me, it was a discovery, a great wine that captures the vintage very nicely. Maybe going through a phase right now where the wood is starting to come out, but the fruit is still holding it in check. Everything is in place. Neither of these wines has a super drivey push to it, but a very balanced sort of finish. A very drive and persistence, drive and persistence, drive and persistence. Lots of good stuff happening on the sides. Delicious. What can I say? Poissenot. I'd never heard of it before a couple of years ago. I'm really glad that I get a chance to try them. And especially, I want to do this tasting because of the recent release of the Jadot in 2016, which again, like I said, was one of my favorite vintages. And I wanted to know if I should go and buy another bottle. And obviously, the answer to that is a resounding yes. Okay, thanks so much for watching. Stay thirsty.